Last week in Lagos, I saw Fela's underwear. Or as we say it on the streets, I saw Fela's pants. It was at the Afrobeat Rebellion, a glorious multimedia exhibition that tells the full story of Nigeria's most famous individual ever. As I stood behind a glass case that held 12 of one man's pants, I reflected again on what made this one man so revolutionary, so out of this world, that his very underwear has become iconic all over the world. There is one simple answer. Fela was thoroughly original. He was thoroughly original because he was thoroughly Nigerian. Fela was thoroughly himself. He behaved like a Nigerian would behave. He thoroughly loved being Nigerian. He reveled in it. He loved Nigerian instruments. He loved Nigerian women. He loved Nigerian chaos. He loved Nigeria's prisons. He loved the Nigerian audience. Fela was never trying to take Afrobeat to the world. Fela was trying to preach Afrobeat to Nigerians and Africans. Calcutta Republic was not named after Calcutta in India, but after a prison cell called Calcutta in Lagos. His band, Egypt 80, was named in honor of an ancient African civilization. And for a full decade of his career, this British-trained musician was resolutely uninterested in performing outside of West Africa. He stuck with Nigeria, Ghana, and Cameroon, viewing his music as primarily made for Africans. It was because he was focused so fully, so deeply, and so completely on his local audience that Europe and America organically began to hear of his music and politics. And then he was invited for his first major tour in America 12 years after his music career started. I like to shock people by informing them that Fela was never nominated for any major international awards while he was alive. He never made the Grammy stage. He never made a Rolling Stone cover, but he didn't care. He was president of the people. He prioritized Yaba over New York. He preferred Abeokuta to Atlanta. So if we want to be like Fela, if we want to create an industry of icons so iconic that they draw a young French boy to one day learn about the symbolism of even our undergarments, what do we do? The answer is simple. Stop trying to tell African stories to the world. Stop trying to sell Africa to the world. The modern African story has sadly been built like a mirror facing outward. We want to be seen by the world, to be validated by it, to be accepted by it. We make art for Berlin's approval. We make stories for Tribeca's nod. We have packaged Nigeria, Africa in a way that will make them understand us, make them take us seriously, make them see that we too are modern. Africa's economic and cultural elite spend so much time trying to explain ourselves to the world that we've forgotten how to speak to ourselves. That is sadly why no single international festival favorite film has done well in the local box office, because the audience doesn't recognize it, they can't identify with it. We want to show the world that we have skyscrapers, as if skyscrapers are the epitome of civilization. We protest passionately that we also speak good English, as we mock our own who speak with what we call a local accent. We insist that Africa is not a jungle, as if jungles are not harbingers of abundance and opportunity. Meanwhile, at the same time, we celebrate Black Panther as if it tells an authentic African story. We want the Oscars so badly. We forget how to make movies that get 1 million people to go to our own cinemas in a country of over 200 million. We spend time on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly and the London Film Festival, begging them to give us a seat at the table, instead of spending time in Nairobi and Abidjan building our own damn table. We've turned storytelling into performance. We want to show the world that we can dance, that we can think, that we can code, that we can love like them. But here's the hard truth. The world doesn't need us to perform Africa. The world needs Africa to be itself. Every culture that has conquered the world, from K-pop to Bollywood, started by conquering home. Nollywood didn't succeed because it was trying to tell African stories to the world. It succeeded and traveled organically across Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Western diaspora because it was authentically African. It spoke of rituals and wicked stepmothers. It displayed with pride the slapstick improv of Nkemowo, the dramatic screams of Shola Shobowale, the delicious Yoruba verbosity of Iya Rainbow. It wasn't our technical excellence that brought in Netflix, Leone Prime Videos, and inspired the Toronto International Film Festival to develop specific programming for this industry. No, it was the power, the concentrated power of our local audience. It was the Patience Ozokwanes and the Aki and Popones, two of our most known actors, that made it happen. It was Upper Iweka Road, Nollywood's chaotic production hub in eastern Nigeria, and the Oduinfa Caucus, our homegrown film school model that triggered the revolution. Nigeria's elites used to mock Afrobeat. They said Davido was shouting, and our producers were substandard. They insisted that this sound couldn't travel. They ignored it and dismissed them, but our guys kept singing. Shoki to Frayo, Pesuma to Olofin, Shei Shodimu to Thames. Long before Beyonce arrived on the scene and Selena Gomez learned to calm down, there was Kenny Ogungbe leaving Hollywood to return home, Dove Records betting on the Plantation Boys, and Obiasika insisting to Endemol that Afrobeats alone could power Big Brother Africa. Then D'banj, Wizkid, and Bankuli, and others opened the door to a party we were already having for ourselves, by ourselves. And then the world waltzed in step by step. Justin Bieber, Vogue, Gucci, the Olympics. Afrobeats didn't conquer the world by trying to be understood. We conquered the world because it was so confident it had no need to explain itself. Then we forced the Grammys to recognize us on our own terms, not the terms of the rest of the world's sound and production. We made our standards, our discipline, our voice the global standard. We made our standards so clear, so definite, so loud, and so powerful that we bent the world to our very will. That is how it is done. Fela emerged into a global industry that forced music into 3 to 5 minute radio formats, with the longest at 8 to 10 minutes. And what did he do? He completely ignored them like they didn't exist and began to release tracks that exceeded 20 or 30 minutes, often taking up an entire side of a vinyl LP record with 10 to 15 minutes of just instrumentals. So that if you didn't like it, you could go and eat grass. He was singing for Africans, and we liked it exactly as it was. That is how it is done. People ask me when my viral show with Chude will interview international celebrities, and I tell them, I have no such interest. Why should I even have that as a plan when we have so many sparkling African leaders and celebrities that I have not yet interviewed? Why do I even need to think of that When my first live show this year had 5,000 people come to listen to my interview live, and all of them Nigerians. Nothing like that had ever been done in sub-Saharan Africa before, and it only happened because I focused on my audience, my market, and authentically African voice. The West already has Oprah. Allow me enjoy my Africa. We should focus on telling African stories to Africans. We should tell them so well, so consistently, so specifically that the world has to subtitle us. That is how South Korea grabbed the world's attention. That is how India maintained its center. That is how China industrialized its taste. We don't bend our voice to the global algorithm. We train the algorithm to find us. This is even more urgent now that the internet economy has changed the game. The internet has broken down the gates, dislodged the gatekeepers, and created a global direct-to-audience loop where you can create from Nigeria in Iseluku and earn in dollars from Vancouver. Overtaking is now allowed. This is the biggest distribution of storytelling power in global history, and most of our institutions still don't understand it. They're still trying to package Nigerian stories for export. But we don't have to wait our turn. We don't have to beg permission. We don't have to follow the slow path someone else has marked for us. Overtaking is now allowed. We must stop wasting time criticizing Nollywood films or skits and instead find what makes them work and improve on what is already working. The way forward is not to replace our voice, but to elevate it. We like our content like we like our jollof rice. Messy, oily, spicy. Don't snare, train. Don't replace, elevate. We should take those YouTube films commenters love to fight about and make them the best version of themselves with story rigor, world building, and post-production craft. We should find out how Jerick fills out stadiums in Onitsha, how Syra gets millions of views in Kano, how community cinema can aggregate disposable income in Oshobo, find out why millions of Nigerians will never abandon Omoni Oboli and Odogun Parara. That is how local taste evolves without losing itself. That's how a market deepens and grows locally. That's how the world learns to respect your voice. If we don't own our voice and market now once and for all, our country's creative business model will continue to be turned down every time Netflix leaves or doesn't leave. Each time Canal Plus buys MultiChoice. Each time Paramount exits the market. Each time American venture capital disrespects your pitch deck. It is time for us to stop imitating the West and East's voice, viewpoints, perspectives, flattened ideologies, and start listening to how we listen, why we act, how we dream, and what we want. We need to respect the local tastes, understand it, and then scale it. We need to start observing, listening to, and systematizing who and what we are, including our own so-called weaknesses. We need to stop apologizing for being loud, vivid, dramatic. We need to stop criticizing how Shola Shobowale shouts in movies when that's exactly how many of our mothers scream at home. Borrow from the West what works, offer what we have mastered, combine them. That is civilization. Because beneath all this talk of strategy and storytelling, this is really about dignity. Our dignity as Africans who deserve to exist just as we are. Here's what I've learned in 25 years of storytelling. The story that changes the world is the one that first changes the storyteller. When the people begin to tell their stories to themselves, honestly, freely, without fear, they begin to heal. The moment you stop performing for the world, the world finally begins to pay attention. We must no longer audition for other people's approval. We must no longer translate our voice to fit another palate. We must no longer outsource our tastes. Stop trying to tell African stories to the world. Tell African stories to Africans. Let us build the canon here, and the world will subtitle us. Let us finance our voices here, and the world will syndicate us. Let us discipline our craft here, and the world will study us. Let them see us burn. Let them see us blaze. And even if they don't see us, it doesn't matter one tiny little bit. Because you and I, we will already have seen ourselves fully. My name is Chude Jideonwo. I am proudly, fully African in my storytelling, and I am done waiting for anybody's permission. Thank you.